I gave you guys a question several weeks ago on this very podcast, and I'm about to reiterate that question to you right now again this week. Is it too early to be talking about WrestleMania 37? The answer is the same as it was several weeks ago, and that answer is no, it's not. If you're a logical, common sense, of the right mind wrestling fan. Now, in the eyes and in the mentality of WWE, it's too early to even be talking about booking Monday Night Raw. I mean, this is the same company, run by the same people, that don't even have a TLC pay-per-view planned out. And that's just 2 weeks away. WrestleVotes tweeted out this week on Thursday that WWE has proposed WrestleMania matches in mind. And when I go over what those matches are, you may be sick to your stomach. It is a clear indication that A, WWE doesn't give a damn what we want or what we feel, and B, I don't think they realize the damage they could do, not only to specific characters on their program, but the damage that would be done to WrestleMania in general if they go ahead and do what they have in mind in March of next year. We are going to go over again what should be done at WrestleMania and how you could make it the best WrestleMania in the last 20 years if you just listen to me. Also, Vince McMahon is not pleased with the big men in WWE. Several names were sent back to the Performance Center. Who are they and why are they back at the Performance Center retraining? And what this actually means to WWE. And it's something that I've been saying all along for years. If WWE even knows NXT, I would be shocked. And what I mean by that is WWE doesn't even know it exists. They don't give a damn about it. And it's just 100% confirmation that that statement is factually correct. Guys, this is going to be a rant heavy. This is going to be a major off the script episode. You do not want to go anywhere, man. This is episode 355 of Off the Script.
Delete this man.
Alive with it. People still did. You know, man, sitting down doing this podcast every single week, it's draining. It really is draining. Now, I don't want to alarm you. I'm not going anywhere. I don't have any thoughts of going anywhere. Only up. It's draining because people don't understand. People don't understand the love that people like me and many others have for WWE. We might not love it now, but we love it. We know the potential of everybody there. We know what WWE could be. Now, I don't want to hear the argument of, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. That is a loser argument made by loser people who have the IQ of this water bottle. I complain because I care. I complain And I rant and I raise my voice because I can. I do it because I want to make a difference. I do it because I want to educate those who might be lost. All of my ranting and all of my complaining is for the greater good. It really is. I want to see change. And I feel like if I sit stagnant and I just sit in the corner, then I'm admitting defeat. No matter how big or small my show might be compared to the bigger geeks in the community, we have the most powerful voice. Because where they don't see a problem, we do. And when we see a problem, we are the loudest to make sure everybody knows that that might not be the best thing that WWE should be doing. Folks, WrestleMania should be, and by all accounts, is the biggest wrestling show in the world. Hasn't felt that way. It hasn't felt that way at all. When was the last time you felt, oh my God, man, I gotta get all my friends over to watch WrestleMania? I haven't done that in God knows how long. And I don't plan on doing that anytime soon because I am too smart for that. You are as well. We know better. But with the current news that came out this week, man, I honestly and truly believe that WWE wants to let everybody down. I think Vince is really trying to kill this company. There's no way that anybody in that company can convince me that that man is not intentionally doing harm. There's no reason why we should be talking about Bill Goldberg WrestleMania main event in 2021. None. Absolutely none. Especially with that match that I will be going over today that was supposed to happen this year that did not because Roman went home. That doesn't mean you need to do it because of certain situations that were beyond your control. Couldn't happen this year. That doesn't mean you have to do it again next year. Who wanted it in the first place? Who was interested in the match in the first place? Show me one fucking person. I don't believe I have to reiterate myself. I don't believe I have to sit here and do Bruce Pritchard's job better than him. Better than Vince McMahon. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. By the way, guys, I'm not sure if you realize this, but now, as of this week, Keith Lee is a bad professional wrestler. It's news to me. I don't know when this news became such a big deal, but my God, man, do you watch what the fucking guy did in NXT for 2 years? I don't know. I just don't understand it. I really don't understand the mentality of these people, man. They are running a company. And these people should be worrying about the revenue that the company is making and leave the creative side to the people who actually know what the fuck they're doing. It's news to me. Keith Lee can't wrestle. Keith Lee, all of a sudden this week, is a terrible professional wrestler, says Vince McMahon. We're going to go over that. CM Punk on Renee Paquettes' podcast. 10 things that CM Punk addressed on her podcast this week. And I will be making a bold prediction on this show. If you listened on Wednesday, you know what that is. I will be reiterating that again this week on episode 355, man. A lot to go over. A lot to go over. Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, Impact. I don't believe I'm going to be talking about Impact on this show today. AEW news and rumors, NXT news and rumors, all wrapped up into one show today, man. Thank you guys so very much for joining me on Off the Script. Before we get into anything, man, before we get into me shilling my things, my Patreon and all that stuff, Twitter and YouTube and likes and videos and all that stuff, I have to address this because it was a very sad situation this week. Tommy Tiny Lister passed away. He was Zeus in No Holds Barred, if you guys remember that movie. But he passed away this week at the age of 62. Cause of death was indeed revealed on Friday morning. The world of pro wrestling lost Tommy Tiny Lister this week. He had a small yet significant role in so many fans' early memories of WWE, feuding with Hulk Hogan and turning No Holds Barred into a WWE production on pay-per-view. It was actually supposed to result in a match at WrestleMania 6 between Zeus and Hulk Hogan, but cooler heads prevailed in that situation. And then, obviously, I think it worked out pretty damn well for WWE doing Hulk Hogan, the WWF champion at the time, against the Ultimate Warrior, the WWF Intercontinental Champion. And that was one of the biggest main events, if not one of the biggest main events of all time, period, in the world of pro wrestling, especially in WWE. That's when the Intercontinental Championship, by the way, as well, was very significant and important on television. But he had a major role in feuding with Hulk Hogan outside the movie. They used it as a promotional tool for the movie. They brought Zeus into the WWF, feuded with Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake, teamed up with Macho Man Randy Savage at the 1989 SummerSlam. They had a Saturday night's main event as well. Match, I believe, inside a steel cage. My memory gets a little fuzzy when you go back that early. But he was only 62 years old. He was only 62 years old. Cindy Cohen, manager of Tiny Lister, spoke to CNN about his passing. She said he got sick a week ago, and based on the symptoms, he probably had whatever was going around nowadays. It was said that Tiny Lister's symptoms got really bad really quick, and he couldn't breathe. He also felt very weak, which was uncommon for him, to say the least. It was literally something that happened very quickly. He was also beginning to film a new movie this past weekend, but he had to cancel due to his illness. Police were called to his home on Thursday when he did not respond to any phone calls on Wednesday. The list of symptoms obviously was not given, but it was listed as far as cause of death. It was listed as natural causes in the police report. So there was no suspicion of foul play involved. It was just something that naturally happened at 62 years old. My thoughts and prayers go out to not only his family, friends, and everybody in the community, but everybody watching that remembers that fond memory of Zeus being on WWF television and you being a little child and watching that movie and being a fan of Hulk Hogan, which I never was. I was more of an Ultimate Warrior guy, but it was something that I know my dad sat me down and shared that memory with me. So no matter who you are, if you're watching this show, you know of him. You know the role he played in WWF, the very small role he played in WWF. But the more important thing is the childhood memories that we've all grown up with. Even now, we know who he is. As a pro wrestling fan, you know who he is. He had other movie roles, of course. He was in Batman. He was in Friday. He was in a ton of stuff. And 62 years old, man, that's way too young. Way too young for somebody to be passing away. So my thoughts and prayers go out to him, his friends, his family, and everybody that was affected by his death. Sad news. Tommy Tiny Lister passed away at the age of 62. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining me here on Off the Script. This is episode 355. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for all notifications. We are dangerously close to 120,000 subscribers. I'd love to hit that number before the end of the year, man. So what Christmas present could you guys get JD this year? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Helps out the channel. Hit that thumbs up as well. Also a great way to help out the channel. And as always, man, if you missed anything on the channel, down below in the description is every playlist for you that I have on the channel. Go and check that out. Monday Night Raw, AEW, Friday Night SmackDown, everything you need to be caught up during the week. I am there to cover it for you guys, especially on those nights where you don't want to watch the show and I have to watch the show. I take great pleasure knowing that you guys would rather watch me then watch the terrible WWE Weekly program. So if you missed anything, links are down below. Follow me on Twitter, man, at JD from NY206. That's on Twitter and Instagram, so follow JD on social media. I really want to push this Patreon thing, man. I really do. If you guys want to sign up to the Patreon, it is there, patreon.com/JD from NY206. You guys can sign up annually and go get yourself one of those baseball beer mugs, man, carved out of a legitimate MLB baseball bat with the off-the-script insignia logo right on the front. Excellent, excellent gift. If you guys want to sign up for that, please do so. Also, we got the design for the Are We Live t-shirt. It is there. Actually, I want to make this very well known to you guys. Whoever has signed up for the annual subscription, you guys have these things coming to you in the next week or two, man. We will be shipping them out as of this week. The t-shirts are going to take a little bit longer because we got to get everybody's t-shirt size. But if you want to get in on these perks, man, make sure you sign up to the Patreon page, patreon.com/JD from NY206. And today's show is sponsored by the one and the only, The Ridge. Ridge.com/script also makes a great gift. Can't really leave them out when you're talking about Christmas, man. Ridge and the Ridge wallet, ridge.com/script. You're going to use code SCRIPT at checkout for 10% off. And I want to thank them for supporting the podcast this holiday season right here on Off the Scripts. Let's get into the news, man. Right at the top, I want to go in chronological order just to make sure you guys know that the points I am going to make are actually concrete and substantial, okay? Let's start here. TLC is 2 weeks away. We all know TLC is 2 weeks away. We don't know exactly what WWE is putting on the show. They do have matches announced, not the entire card, but WWE does have matches announced, and they are reportedly way behind with booking plans for TLC. Now, WWE has 5 matches announced for TLC. They are as follows. The WWE title will be on the line in a TLC match. Drew McIntyre versus AJ Styles, which to me sounds like a WrestleMania match, but WWE is giving this away to try and sell the importance of this gimmick pay-per-view. Universal title will also be on the line in a tables, ladders, and chairs match. Roman Reigns, who is easily the best thing on WWE television, will defend the Universal title against Kevin Owens. SmackDown Women's title, Sasha Banks will defend against Carmella. Bray Wyatt, as The Fiend, will go one-on-one with Randy Orton. We got a women's tag team title match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler will defend against Asuka and Lana. And then, that's the 5. They just added this as of this week, which obviously is exactly the way I told you it was going to end up. The New Day will defend against the Hurt Business, the Monday Night Raw Tag Team Championships, because Cedric Alexander beat not only Xavier Woods, but he beat Kofi Kingston, and that is enough. After they lost 3 times, that is enough to get a tag team title match on Monday Night Raw. The question is, what happens after this? What happens after this feud is over? Are we going to get an actual tag team to challenge the champions? Or is WWE, or is Bruce, or is Vince going to compile tag teams made out of random singles wrestlers? That's exactly what they're doing. That's exactly what they will do as well. Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy have teased teaming up. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But WWE is way behind. Ringside News is reporting that WWE has not locked down stipulations on matches aside from the stipulations that have already been announced. It was described by someone in the company that they are way behind on, get this folks, booking plans. Apparently Vince McMahon has a lot on his plate this week. Pat Patterson sadly passed away, which was a huge blow to everybody's morale in WWE. And McMahon has known Patterson since the 1970s, so it's no surprise that he may not be fully engaged in everything right now, which is understandable. I don't want to nail Vince McMahon on that one. Another thing the company is busy with is the move to Tropicana Field. Now, as of this writing, WWE has only announced stipulations for, like I said, the 2 major championships, and that is it. They are way behind on everything else. They're way behind on getting people to care. They're way behind on getting a full card together. They're way behind on having these plans matter as we move into January, as we move into the Royal Rumble. Everything is a mess. Everything is a mess. This is what I don't understand, folks, and this is something so simple that a fucking geek in the community could come up with this if he's got a microphone and a camera and a podcast and an internet connection to upload to social media, which, by the way, if you do that, you're not going to be better than me. That's why I'm saying it, and it's going to matter. When someone else says it that's got one follower and one subscriber, it's not going to matter. This is why I'm saying it right here. They're way behind. But why? Why does everything have to fall on the plate of Vince McMahon? Why does everything have to fall on the plate of Vince McMahon? Why can't Vince McMahon worry and grieve about Pat Patterson and his family? Why can't Vince McMahon just take a step back, worry about Pat Patterson, worry about Tropicana Field and getting everything ready and going over with what needs to happen there? Why can't Vince McMahon, and this word may be too big for management in WWE, why can't Vince McMahon delegate creative and leave that in charge of the people that you're paying to write these shows? You'll look over it, but you as a CEO should give them the benefit of the doubt and give them your full trust. Or is it a situation where you're just a money-hungry, power-hungry, ego-driven maniac that needs to have his name stamped to everything? And then when you do, the first thing that you do when things go wrong is look for somebody else to blame. Bruce Pritchard's not the type of guy that we want to give any type of credit to. That's not the type of guy that should be in charge of creative. But Vince McMahon should be delegating so that he could worry about these obviously more important subjects. Why are they way behind? Because Vince McMahon himself is busy doing other things. I never understood that. If I'm a boss, and if I'm a CEO, I'm delegating. I'm delegating these types of things. I'm not saying that Vince McMahon shouldn't have a say in anything, but my God, man, have your people work on something, look over it, and make slight changes to it, and then things would be done. Scripts wouldn't be written at 7:45, only to be finished at the 9 o'clock hour on Monday and Friday. Things like that should not be happening. So they're way behind because Vince McMahon doesn't want to delegate, and the fact that he doesn't want to delegate is actually harming the product. So they're way behind on booking TLC, okay? WWE, as we move into this next topic, WWE is struggling to nail down solid Royal Rumble plans. You don't say. Now, we all know the Royal Rumble is the second biggest pay-per-view of the year because it directly affects WrestleMania. Now, normally, if WWE is where they are right now at this time of the year, normally, normal people would have a women's Royal Rumble winner and a men's Royal Rumble winner in mind already. You would have an undercard booked or at least on paper, written in pencil. And in the next couple weeks, you'd make sure that's written in pen. And then you take the pen and you solidify it in black Sharpie. Simple. It's very simple, folks. The Royal Rumble is the second biggest pay-per-view of the year that is a major proponent as to what happens at WrestleMania. It directly affects what happens in your main event at WrestleMania. Why? Why don't you, at least at this juncture, have a women's and a men's Royal Rumble winner at least in that little thought bubble? You don't have any solid Royal Rumble plans? So Ringside News, obviously, they're the ones that are going out there and getting the major scoops here. Ringside News has been told that Vince McMahon is way behind. We already discussed that. There are many things to blame, like Pat Patterson and Tropicana, but there are many things to blame for this, including, and I mentioned this last week when we ranted on Bruce Pritchard, the void of leadership at the top specifically naming Bruce Pritchard. Bruce Pritchard is the reason why the Royal Rumble plans are not where they should be, and they have yet to get off the ground. A tenured member of the writing team told us at Ringside News, they say, that they haven't started booking the Royal Rumble card, the Royal Rumble match, or even discussed potential winners at this point. It was reiterated once again how behind everyone is right now. Now, they don't have plans for TLC. They don't have plans for the Royal Rumble. But the news came out this week that WWE has proposed WrestleMania matches in mind. Now, I'm not here to say that WWE can't have WrestleMania matches in mind. It's always good to think out loud, right? Maybe we should do this, or maybe we should do that. We should pair this guy with that guy and this woman with that woman, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying that hasn't happened. But folks, this is WWE we're talking about. Do you honestly believe, and WrestleVotes has been solid. I'm a big fan of WrestleVotes. I love their Twitter account. When they tweet, I genuinely get excited because it's something new and it's something that's definitely in discussion. But even if they tweeted that out, at the end of the day, this is WWE we're talking about. This is WWE we're talking about. These are the same people. These are the same people in management that can't even write a SmackDown show on time. These are the same people that can't even write a Monday Night Raw episode on time, where scripts are being written and ripped up and rewritten all over again, only to have things change as the show is actually live on USA and Friday night on Fox. This is a company that is without proper leadership. This is a company that has a CEO show up at the arena whenever he wants, with his writing team waiting to give him a script, only for him to not even probably look at the script and write something on his own. This is the company being led by Bruce Pritchard, who buries talent for the sake of buried talent because he doesn't like them. This is a guy that doesn't know true talent if it slapped him in the face. This is a guy who will yes, Vince McMahon to death and come up with no solid ideas for himself to present to Vince McMahon. This is a guy that will not combat Vince McMahon on anything, which is a direct offense as to why the shows suck. If Vince says so, it must be right. Do you have a mind for yourself? Do you got a cock and balls between your legs where you could go to Vince McMahon and say, hey, boss, this ain't working. This ain't working. No, you're just going to yes him to death, and you're going to double down on what Vince does, and more likely than not, especially with the prior shit that we've seen, more than likely whatever Vince McMahon comes up with is fucking terrible. So no TLC plans, no Royal Rumble plans, and you expect these people to come up with WrestleMania plans. You expect these people to have WrestleMania plans already in place. Give me a break, folks. Give me a break. So I want to get that out there right away. Take what you hear with an immensely small grain of salt, please. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, JD, WrestleVotes tweeted out about WrestleMania and these proposed plans that WWE has in mind for WrestleMania 37. What exactly are they? What exactly are they? WrestleVotes is reporting that the current plan is for Roman Reigns to headline against Goldberg. I'll let that sit with you guys for just a second as I take a sip of my water because I'm getting fucking angry. I'm getting angry. Now, Roman Reigns versus Goldberg supposedly will headline, and that will be for the Universal Championship. That was the plan for WrestleMania 36, but those plans were scrapped days before the show because Reigns opted not to work because of COVID-19 concerns. Another match, which I think is a common theme with what everybody is thinking nowadays. Another match planned for the show is Edge versus Randy Orton. Put that on the side burner. Put that in the vault. We already know that's happening. So I'm not really all that concerned about that. That was on my internal list, my personal list anyway, for WrestleMania 37. That was the original plan dating back to July, but then it changed to Orton versus Bray Wyatt, and it looks like they are now back to what they originally had in mind. So let's put that to the side, like I said. Also, WrestleVotes is reporting that Drew McIntyre will be at WrestleMania. Of course he will be. And another big match that they have planned is Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar versus Keith Lee, presumably for the WWE Championship. Now, again, there is a lot of time between now and WrestleMania, and these matches that WrestleVotes listed on Twitter are nothing more than working ideas. Things can change. And WrestleVotes notes that there are lots of variables in play, and attendance is a big factor. Now, I'm going to save myself from the rant for now because I want to give you guys the follow-up story to this, which they actually tweeted me because they're following me on Twitter, but they see my frustration about this. And Ringside News reached out to me on Twitter and quote tweeted my tweet with their report. And I'm going to go over exactly what Ringside News is reporting as an exclusive as of Thursday. Now, the current plan for those three matches came from WrestleVotes. Terrible, but that's what WrestleVotes is saying. Ringside News says that those matches, they didn't name WrestleVotes by name. Those matches were never pitched by anybody in WWE. So where that came from, I don't know. Ringside News has learned that the matches floating around the internet on Thursday were never officially pitched within WWE. They say, and I quote, "We have covered this topic extensively in the past. Vince McMahon is way behind. Royal Rumble plans aren't even being close to being finalized, let alone nailed down. They do not have anything on the grid for WrestleMania 37 yet. We were told that those matches have never been pitched. They were never discussed in any serious fashion. Ringside News has also been told that they were not even discussed within the writers' meetings where things get discussed on what to pitch to Bruce and Vince," end quote. Another source commented and used the word bullshit in their reply. It might be fun to imagine Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre versus Keith Lee and everything that it would take for that match to happen at WrestleMania, but it wasn't pitched. WWE has a working TLC card. They're still piecing that together. We're a week and a half away from that show. They have no plans for the Royal Rumble. And you want me to sit here and believe that WWE internally has plans for WrestleMania? Folks, I don't know what you're watching on a weekly basis. I don't know what you're watching year to year when it comes to WWE. When have, especially in recent memory, when have they ever had WrestleMania plans this early? Back in the day, they used to. Normally, WWE would be fleshing out WrestleMania plans right around the time of Survivor Series. We have not seen WWE act with that mentality in years. But what exactly have you been watching on a year-to-year basis with this company, man? It's getting later and later every single year. We went from having WrestleMania season be January through April. WrestleMania season now, the way we sit, and more than likely in 2021, will be about 3 or 4 weeks. That's WrestleMania season. That's what WWE does. They don't start fleshing a WrestleMania card out until the last 3 or 4 weeks right before WrestleMania. Never mind the fucking Royal Rumble. Yeah, a title match is made. Who's to say that title match doesn't change in the road to WrestleMania? We have a women's title match. We got a men's title match. The Elimination Chamber determines whichever brand didn't win the Royal Rumble, that title or that roster member who has that title for that brand is determined inside the Elimination Chamber. So realistically, WWE doesn't even start planning WrestleMania until after the Elimination Chamber, which this year would be the end of February, and WrestleMania is in March, which would leave them, like I said, 4 fucking weeks for WrestleMania. I want to go over this right now. And I'm talking specifically to Bruce. I'm talking specifically to whatever fucking cretin in WWE that's on that writing staff. If you're listening to me, I want you guys to take. I'm working for fucking free here, okay? I'm working for free. I want you to take whatever I'm about to tell you right to Bruce. Because I have it. I have it for you. How to make WrestleMania great again. Okay? And it's not with Bill Goldberg and Roman Reigns. It's not doing Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre in the same ring. First of all, we've been through this already. Who wanted Goldberg and Roman Reigns this year? Not even Roman wanted it. Nobody watching this program wants Roman Reigns and Bill Goldberg. I don't know if Vince McMahon or Bruce Pritchard realize this. Maybe Bruce does realize it and he's just using this as a potential fuck you Paul Heyman tactic. Because I think there's something going on there. I don't know if they realize this, but Roman Reigns is the biggest heel in the fucking industry right now. I don't know why you just don't book that match at the Royal Rumble. Why does it have to be at WrestleMania? There's nothing written there that Bill Goldberg needs to be at WrestleMania. I would rather Bill Goldberg be on the Royal Rumble undercard against Roman Reigns because A, it fills out a top-tier match that you could do on the undercard that isn't going to steal the thunder away from anybody else at WrestleMania. You're not going to be promoting Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania to take a spot away from a younger guy that is more deserving of being on WrestleMania, number one. Number two, it gives the Royal Rumble even more importance if you do something like that with someone like Bill Goldberg. Who else does Roman Reigns have on SmackDown after he gets done with Kevin Owens? Nobody. Big E is not in discussion for a Universal title. The only other one right now is Daniel Bryan. So what exactly are you going to do? Why are you taking Bill Goldberg and putting him in a position over somebody like Daniel Bryan that has busted his fucking ass on SmackDown in more ways than one? Why are you going to take that opportunity away from him to give it to Bill Goldberg? Why don't you just do Daniel Bryan, which right now, to me, and I think a lot of fucking people, is the better story for Roman Reigns going into WrestleMania. They have a history that you have right now that is untapped. It is untapped, and it tells a great story. And you could imagine how great it would be played out on Friday night with Paul Heyman now involved with Roman Reigns. Daniel Bryan is the number one reason for Roman Reigns' downfall. Not Goldberg. What are you going to sell this match on? Oh my God, they both have spears. Spear me in the fucking chest with an actual spear instead of giving me this goddamn forsaken trash. That's number one. Royal Rumble. It takes a WrestleMania match that's planned by Vince that he's got a hard on for and puts it at the Royal Rumble so that it doesn't take away from the overall feel of getting a main roster guy on the show and putting him in a situation where, like Daniel Bryan, you would actually have him on the show and you wouldn't take that spot away from him to give it to somebody that isn't there. Because I'm tired of seeing these legends come back for their one big heyday, their one big payday at WrestleMania because they live in a fucking crypt all year. Oh, WrestleMania's around. Let me call up Vince. Do you got work for me? No. No. Number 2. I'm not sure if you guys realize this. Roman Reigns is a heel. Everybody hates Bill Goldberg. I don't know who out there is a fan of Bill Goldberg. You may be a fan of Bill Goldberg because he loves muscle cars and he's a rough and tough guy, right? He's legit, right? Roman Reigns is a heel. Roman Reigns is being hated right now for all the right reasons. He's a heel, and he's damn good at it, and he's the biggest heel in the industry right now. Nobody is better than Roman Reigns. He's the biggest star in all of wrestling right now. Legit. He is where they've wanted him this entire time. And what exactly got him there? Doing exactly what I said. A heel turn. I don't know if Bruce or Vince realizes this, but if you put Bill Goldberg, who right now has fucking crimes against him that are unforgivable, not even his fault, partially it is, but it's not really his fault because Vince is a fucking dumbass. This guy buried a beloved Bray Wyatt Fiend character in February, something that Bill Goldberg will never be able to live with. Every time I see Bill Goldberg, I think of that. I think of that night and that moment and what that has caused in WWE. You killed Bray Wyatt on that night, and he has yet to recover. If you put Roman Reigns and Bill Goldberg in the ring at WrestleMania and do what you wanted to do this year, next year, you do realize that with Bill Goldberg being as hated as he is right now, you will undo everything that Roman Reigns has done coming out of the initial heel turn and repackaging with Paul Heyman. Everything that you've done with Roman will be for nothing. Now, I know Paul Heyman is good friends with Bill Goldberg, and I know Paul Heyman has worked with Bill Goldberg in the past, but that doesn't mean it needs to happen now. You are at a time and in a point in Roman Reigns' career that if you do anything to change what you've done, which has worked brilliantly, it will be looked at as one of the biggest creative blunders in the history of WWE. Do not bring Bill Goldberg back and pair him with Roman Reigns if you want to keep Roman Reigns as a heel. Do not. Soon as they are in the ring together, how many people are going to be cheering for Roman Reigns? Because they fucking hate Bill Goldberg. That match is god-awful. What a god-awful idea for WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar. Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee. This is what WWE has caused, all because of their inept booking. This is where they sit right now. Now, Roman Reigns has a couple of options at WrestleMania. They have a couple of options, okay? They could go Daniel Bryan. They could go Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. They could do Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, okay? Clearly, The Rock is not going to happen. I got news on that. Those are the only options right now for Roman Reigns that legitimately make any type of sense. Drew McIntyre would have to lose the WWE Championship back to a Randy Orton or Keith Lee or somebody on Monday Night Raw that they deem worthy to take that championship of. It could go to AJ Styles for all we fucking know. I don't know. They could do Drew McIntyre, but Drew McIntyre would have to win the Royal Rumble because he's on Monday Night Raw. He would have to win the Royal Rumble and challenge Roman Reigns, and I don't even know if that is allowed that have to really make the rules known at that point. If you're a Monday Night Raw superstar, can you challenge for any title in the WWE? Rules change on the fly in WWE. I don't think it's written in stone anywhere. But they could do that, A, if they want to do creatively, because they have the power to do whatever they want, and B, with the backlash that everybody gave WWE, only for it to backfire in our faces, because Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns had a fantastic match at WrestleMania, or at Survivor Series, rather. It would probably be a big contender for a WrestleMania rematch. They could do that. And I would not be opposed to that. Is that the route I would go? No. I would keep Drew McIntyre on Monday Night Raw. But with Drew McIntyre as the WWE champion, Brock Lesnar, why would you put those guys back in the ring together? That part of Drew McIntyre's career is done and over with. Why would Brock Lesnar be coming back seeking out Drew McIntyre? He lost. He lost. Yes, he wants the WWE title back, but why would you put them in the ring together if you made such a big ordeal, a big fucking spectacle about Drew McIntyre getting the win over Brock Lesnar and beating him at WrestleMania, only for Drew McIntyre to be in the ring with Brock Lesnar again? What is going to be any different from what we see in this year? If Drew McIntyre enters the WrestleMania show next year as the WWE champion, what does that mean? More than likely, he's not going to win that match, and more than likely, he's going to be walking out without the WWE title. So is it going on Keith Lee, or is it going on Brock Lesnar? You would undo everything you did about Drew McIntyre having his WrestleMania moment. Could WWE play up the fact that they want him to have a legit WrestleMania moment in front of fans? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know how you're going to play it off to me or the fans as any more of a bigger deal than it was this year. He beat Brock Lesnar already in 4 minutes. You don't need to do it again and tell that same story all over again like you would want to with Roman Reigns and Bill Goldberg. I don't want to see a rehash of WrestleMania this year, which is widely considered one of the worst of all time. Keith Lee. Why do we need Drew McIntyre in this match with Keith Lee and Brock Lesnar? Here's a fucking clue. Why don't you just give me Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar? Brock Lesnar at one point or another, at one point or another, seemed like an unstoppable force in WWE. He will always be looked at as an unstoppable force in WWE. The guy is immune. He's bulletproof. Okay? If Brock Lesnar comes back, he's more than likely back for the big paydays. Saudi, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, whatever the case may be. It's easy to give Brock Lesnar a win back if you want to book him in a WrestleMania match to put somebody else over. Now, I do question how long WWE could go back to this tired formula of bringing Lesnar in to put somebody else over, because truly, how long do they stay over? Not long. Not with this creative team. But if Brock Lesnar's coming back, why don't you have him back in the Royal Rumble? Why don't you have him back in the Royal Rumble? Have him dominate and have Keith Lee eliminate him in the Royal Rumble this year. That would set up the match. Lesnar could go and eliminate 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys. It doesn't matter. Keith Lee would be the one to eliminate Brock Lesnar this year. Come up with the creative way in which that could happen. Have that showdown again this year and have that lead to a match at WrestleMania. Why do we need Drew McIntyre in the ring with Brock Lesnar when he's already accomplished that and defeated Brock Lesnar? Why don't we just do Keith Lee versus Lesnar at WrestleMania and get over Keith Lee as a major player and a major star on Monday night and solidify that fact? Why are we talking about Bill Goldberg and Roman Reigns when you could easily do that at the Royal Rumble? It's not going to take away from anybody. It's not going to outshine the Royal Rumble. It's not going to take a spot away from a young guy or a better story from WrestleMania. Why do we need that to be at WrestleMania? What type of star is Bill Goldberg in the eye of the modern day fan that's watching this product? How big of a ratings draw is Bill Goldberg? By prior numbers in previous history, the answer is not much. He's not much of a big star anymore. Not so much a star in which it's going to impact the ratings. Nobody gives a shit. Randy Orton versus Edge. That's been talked about for months. I'm not really all that concerned about it. Whether it's for the WWE title or not, I don't give a shit. Some people say it doesn't need the title. Fine. This is what I will do for the writing team. I'm going to make your lives a lot easier as we dove into a little bit of it right away into this section of the podcast anyway. Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. I don't know why he needs to be in the ring with Lesnar. Why can't you do something like, first of all, I would have saved AJ Styles for Drew McIntyre. That's the type of match I would have done and waited for at WrestleMania. But WWE wants to bust their load so early. So now we're looking at a match that more than likely is a transition into another match and will mean nothing after TLC is over. So what I'm thinking of right now is why don't we do Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus? Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. What I think WWE will do, because I don't think this is anything that's going to come to fruition. What I do think WWE is going to do, and you guys may take the fucking canes and the fucking pitchforks at me for even implying this. What I think WWE is going to do is I think they're going to go and do Drew McIntyre versus Jinder Mahal. That's exactly what I think they're going to do. I would wait and hold off on this Sheamus thing for a couple of months. I really would. Have them be friends with each other. Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus for the WWE Championship. It could be a match that legitimately steals the show if you let those guys go out there and do what they need to do and deliver a match. Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus, number 1. Keith Lee versus Brock Lesnar, number 2. Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE title, number 3. Big E. More than likely going to win the Intercontinental title from Sami Zayn, because that's what they do with people that right now are floating in the middle of nothing. Let's give him an Intercontinental title. Nobody gives a fuck about it. They give a shit about Big E. So we'll put the title on him. Maybe he could take it to heights that it hasn't seen in recent months. Big E. Intercontinental Championship versus Seth Rollins. This is a great situation for not only Rollins to come back and find something to do, but you got Big E, who right now is in a mid-card role as a singles guy on SmackDown, and everybody's talking about him potentially taking down Roman Reigns. It would be a nice coup for Big E to go after Seth Rollins. And then after that, you could probably turn Seth Rollins into a babyface. I don't know if Seth Rollins is going to come back as a heel or a babyface. I don't know how he comes back as a heel, being that now he's Mr. Becky Lynch and they just had their first daughter. Big E versus Seth Rollins is the type of match that I think could really be interesting. You play off the SmackDown Savior or the Messiah gimmick for a little bit, going after somebody like Big E who comes off with this very preacher-esque vibe. I think that works. Put the IC title on the line, there you go. Not my original idea for the Intercontinental Championship. I would make it a one-on-one match with or without the championship. If the title somehow doesn't go to Big E and stays on Sami Zayn, I think Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship is the best way to go about it. That's just me. But Big E and Seth Rollins, especially on SmackDown, that's what I see as a match worth doing. And Big E has nothing to do right now. That kind of erases all of that worry for people. Not really doing much of anything right now. In a feud with Rollins, I think that's going to generate a lot of interest. What do you do with Goldberg? If Vince is so hard on for getting Goldberg on WrestleMania, why don't you use him in a way that's going to get over new talent? Why are you going to put him in a match against Roman Reigns that could, A, directly affect Roman Reigns and the work he's done as a heel, and B, only anger the fan base? What happened to Lars Sullivan? Why isn't Lars Sullivan on SmackDown being built up as this brand's monster? Why are you wasting somebody like Lars Sullivan that all we heard for months, Vince is high on him. Vince wants something for him to do. Vince is taking Lars Sullivan and making him his pet project. Why are we using Goldberg to put over Roman Reigns? Roman Reigns doesn't need to be put over anymore. Roman Reigns was put over with Paul Heyman, and it's only gone up from here. The whole storyline with Jey Uso has made Roman Reigns go up. Jey Uso! And in Bizarro Land, it's worked out for Jey Uso. It's going to work out for Jimmy Uso. You don't need Goldberg to get Roman Reigns any more over. Goldberg should be using his star to make that money, get him out of here, and put somebody younger over. So why not give me Goldberg versus Lars Sullivan and have Goldberg put over Lars Sullivan? That's a better match to me than Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. You got your Orton versus Edge. You got your Usos. Jimmy will probably be back. I could see Jimmy and Jey Uso winning the tag team titles from the Street Profits at WrestleMania. What the New Day do on Monday night, I have no fucking idea. If it was up to me, I'd have a unification match, to be quite honest with you. I'd have all these teams involved. Unification match. One team walks out the winner of the WWE Tag Team title match, and you unify both the Raw and SmackDown titles. There's no need for two tag team titles. I've said this for 5 years now. 5! But that's not going to happen because I've said it every fucking month, and nothing's been done about it. So I could see the New Day, question mark, but the Usos against the Street Profits. I could see that. I could absolutely see that, making the bloodline even stronger. Because Roman's not losing that title, nor should he. Bianca versus... This is a difficult one. You could do Bianca versus Sasha, but what would that leave for Bayley at WrestleMania? Bayley could win the Royal Rumble. We could still get Bayley versus Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, and then we could do Sasha versus Bianca at SummerSlam, which, to me, would be the best way to go about it. That would be the best way to go about it. Bianca is young enough where you don't have to rush her. You don't have to rush Bianca. I would do Bayley winning the Royal Rumble, challenging Sasha at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Women's title. Get that out of the way. That's the match that they've wanted. That's the match that they've hoped for. Do it. Bianca versus Sasha. If Sasha and Bayley happens, it would get Sasha a win over Bayley at WrestleMania. You would extend that title reign till SummerSlam, and Bianca, the hottest thing right now in the women's division next to Sasha Banks, would take that title at SummerSlam in August from Sasha, and she would be the new queen on SmackDown. That's what I see to be the best plan. What you do with Bianca at WrestleMania, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe somebody else is called up at that point where you can have a one-on-one match between her and Bianca Belair. I don't know. But Sasha versus Bayley is still a possibility. I would go with that and do Bianca and Sasha at SummerSlam, but I don't see that happening. I see Bianca winning the Royal Rumble because WWE is very one-track mind. Bianca winning the Royal Rumble, her getting a match with Sasha at WrestleMania, which I have absolutely no problem. It's a WrestleMania match. It's a fucking anywhere, anytime, main event type of match when you talk about women's wrestling. But if you're going to go with that, I have no problem with that. I just don't think that's the right way to do it. Where does that leave Bayley? What does Bayley do at WrestleMania? Does it become a triple threat match? Do we see Sasha and Bayley in the ring with Bianca? Does Bianca pin Bayley? Do we continue Bayley versus Sasha after the fact? Do we get Bianca and Sasha continuing after the fact? I don't know. There's so little women on SmackDown that it's very difficult to really nail down some solid plans because they're so light in the women's division. That's an idea. Charlotte versus Asuka absolutely is happening at WrestleMania. I would be shocked if Charlotte comes back and doesn't win the championship upon arrival. That's just me. I don't know where Ronda Rousey fits in. I don't know where Becky Lynch fits in. I don't know where any of these women fit in. What are you going to do with Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania? Bray Wyatt versus Jeff Hardy. Book it. Book it. Bray Wyatt's got nothing else to do. He finished up with Randy Orton at TLC, or he will be finished, I should say, at TLC. Maybe it extends to the Royal Rumble, and then Orton's going to move on to Edge. So why not do Jeff Hardy, who's got nothing to do on Monday Night Raw? Why don't we do Jeff Hardy versus Bray Wyatt? and let them just take their creativity to the next level and really give us something that is going to differentiate itself from the rest of the card at WrestleMania. The United States Championship match. I could see Bobby Lashley versus Matt Riddle for the United States Championship. You get all the top players at WrestleMania doing what they need to do, putting young talent over. Where AJ Styles fits in, I have no idea. This is why I would have saved AJ Styles for Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I don't know. Maybe he has a one-off match with Braun Strowman. I don't know. But if you're asking me to nail down solid matches for WrestleMania, that is my current plan for WrestleMania. How these matches make any fucking sense or generate any interest is unreal to me. This entire report by WrestleVotes is a fucking mistake. An absolute mistake. Now, speaking of Roman Reigns, clearly, the way things are going, it signifies that Roman Reigns is moving on and he's moving up and this storyline is advancing, and the final boss he would face is The Rock at WrestleMania. That is, for all intents and purposes, the right way to go about it. Not a Daniel Bryan, not a Big E. Does WWE even have talent in place to go and do anything with in regards to Roman Reigns? I don't know. I don't think they could possibly, as far as roster goes, take Roman Reigns any further after SummerSlam is the extent of it. I don't even think they could get through WrestleMania without giving Roman Reigns rinse and repeat opponents. But The Rock is the end-all be-all for this tribal chief storyline. Head of the table, him, king of the family, king of the tribe storyline. It ends with The Rock. Now, there is news on if WWE is getting Dwayne Johnson for WrestleMania. That's one of the big matches that we may end up seeing, but we may not see it until 2022. The Rock said he is open to wrestling Roman Reigns in Los Angeles. Now it looks like Mania is taking place in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium in, from what WrestleVotes is speaking of, a do-over, almost as if this WrestleMania never even took place. And that match with The Rock and Roman Reigns more than likely seems to be a penciled-in match for 2022. The Rock even said he would be open to wrestling Roman Reigns in 2022. No reason was given, but I'm assuming it would be two things. A, Los Angeles. The Rock is the biggest Hollywood actor in all of the land. And B, that would be a little bit more comfortable for Rock to think maybe fans would be back. I guarantee you, without even him saying anything, I guarantee you The Rock probably didn't want to do the match, and Vince McMahon probably didn't want to do the match either. I'll give him that credit this year for WrestleMania 37 because they don't know if fans, A, are going to be in attendance, and B, how many fans are going to be allowed, because there will be fans at WrestleMania, how many fans will be allowed inside Raymond James Stadium. It's not going to be 90,000 people that WWE wants. It may be 20, 30,000 people with social distancing rules in effect. I don't know. So WWE is not getting Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania 37. A source in the company said that Vince McMahon does not feel that WrestleMania 37 would be the time for that match to happen. The source said Vince doesn't know how many fans will be allowed to attend the show. He definitely wants fans there and will probably have to implement social distancing regulations, but he would rather wait until WrestleMania 38 if The Rock wants to do it in Los Angeles inside SoFi Stadium because of COVID. Vince wanted to do the match in LA to capitalize off the extra mainstream media buzz that would come with the match. More media outlets would attend the show because of the location, and Vince wants to get as many eyes on Roman as possible. Again, fans, that's the reason. But one big question that I think we should all be asking ourselves, folks, can WWE even take Roman Reigns in this current role as champion into WrestleMania 38? I don't think so. But I do not blame them if we are still stuck in the same spot where we are right now going into WrestleMania next year. I don't blame A, Dwayne, B, Vince, or C, Roman for not wanting to do the match yet. Maybe WWE should have thought about turning Roman Reigns heel a little later on in this run to give them just enough time for all of it to make sense. But WWE does what they want to do when they want to do it. The reason why they did this Roman Reigns heel turn is because they knew they could manipulate the system. They knew that Roman Reigns was going to be exactly what they wanted without any influence from the fans. It's easy for them to give you what they want when there's nobody in attendance. When fans are there and live people are there in the stadiums and in the arenas in which they go every week for Monday and Friday night, it's very difficult to get across what you want to get across when you have people like me shouting and ranting and screaming in attendance live at a show. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're going to do as far as Reigns and The Rock, but I do not blame them for holding that match off. Now, WWE has no internal plan for Roman Reigns and his WrestleMania opponent. Daniel Bryan is always in discussion. In fact, that's the right match to do, to be perfectly honest with you. If you ain't getting Dwayne and Big E is not it, who else you gonna do? There really is nobody else. Goldberg is not it. Bryan is more WrestleMania than Goldberg is WrestleMania, okay? I would rather a rich storyline, because everything Roman and Paul has touched has turned to gold. And that story sells itself. That is a career-defining moment for Daniel Bryan that directly affected Roman Reigns. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. It changed your plans for you to switch up everything to give Daniel Bryan because the fans were so vocal about wanting Bryan and not Roman. It ruined the Royal Rumble in 2015 and in 14 because of your shitty booking. Now, they have no internal plan for Roman Reigns. We could talk about Goldberg, Bryan, Big E, Rock, anybody. They got no internal plan. Ringside News can confirm that WWE isn't booking, again, that far in advance. Any talk about WrestleMania matches is not an indication of what is really going on. There is no match, even a proposed one, on the grid for Roman Reigns. A tenured member of the writing team explained that there are a few ideas in play, and the mindset is, and I quote, probably not Rock. As previously reported here on the site, Vince McMahon and The Rock are in communication in case something changes in his situation. They're not talking about Rock versus Reigns like it is even remotely happening right now. It is also clarified that Big E is not and has never been in consideration for Roman Reigns' WrestleMania opponent. We've asked around about reports that Big E is being considered as Roman Reigns' opponent for WrestleMania, and we exclusively reported that there is zero talk of Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania 37 right now. A tenured member of the writing team also confirmed to us that Big E's name has never, not once, ever been mentioned by anybody as a WrestleMania opponent for Roman Reigns. And this news was pulled out of thin air. End quote. Again, folks, the likelihood that Roman goes into WrestleMania against Big E is zero. Bryan, Goldberg, and Drew McIntyre. That's it. Which way WWE goes? I don't know. I could tell you which one works and which two don't work. Goldberg and McIntyre don't work right now. McIntyre's on Raw. Goldberg is going to directly affect negatively everything you've done positively with Roman Reigns. Bryan is it. Goldberg is not a babyface. He's not. He may be to the fucking 4-year-old goon sitting in attendance at home on the virtual fucking screen like a geek. It's not a babyface. Roman is at a point right now where his heel work needs a babyface. Who are you going to get to fill that role perfectly? Nobody better than Daniel Bryan. Everybody loves Daniel Bryan. And the story is there. Goldberg will affect Roman negatively. Drew McIntyre, he's on Monday Night Raw. I'm not saying McIntyre can't work. But if you're going to take the title off of Drew McIntyre for a second time to put him in a match against Roman, is he going to win the title? Is he going to beat Roman? No. Nobody is beating Roman. No matter who you put in there. Nobody is beating Roman until we get to The Rock. That's it. So why would you take the title off of Drew McIntyre again, only to have him lose? Why would you take the title off him to have him lose again? It doesn't make sense. That match can wait when you want him to beat Roman and get his revenge against Roman after Survivor Series. This is very simple. I don't know why I have to go over this again with everybody. I don't get it. If you are advocating for Roman versus Goldberg, you are directly responsible for killing everything that Roman Reigns has done coming out of SummerSlam. Everything. And you do not give a shit about future storytelling on Friday Night SmackDown. Bryan is it. Goldberg doesn't need WrestleMania. Goldberg doesn't need the money. Goldberg doesn't need the spotlight. We've been there and done that. How different of a match do you think we're going to get with Roman, with Goldberg, compared to what we've seen with him and Braun Strowman at WrestleMania last year? Nothing. It's not going to be any different. The match is going to last, 3 minutes, 4 minutes? Because Goldberg can't go more than 3 or 4 minutes. I want story-rich fucking angles and storytelling going into WrestleMania. That's why it is WrestleMania. It's the culmination of story, which results in an epic match. Goldberg versus Roman has nothing epic about it. It's only filling Vince McMahon's desires to have this match that nobody wanted this year, next year. For what? For what? Awful. Absolutely awful. Drew McIntyre's been lobbying for a match, though. He's been lobbying a match with Roman Reigns coming out of the Survivor Series. He says, I guarantee that match is going to come back around one day. It will, when the time is right. It will, when the time is right. McIntyre was on the bump this week. Coincidentally, if you guys watched my SmackDown live stream last night, the same show that Goldberg was on talking about how this match is a priority with Roman Reigns. He reflected on losing the Universal Championship to Roman Reigns at Survivor, he didn't lose the Universal Championship, but he lost to the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, at Survivor Series. McIntyre started by saying that the biggest thing to come out of that match was to show Reigns and the world what he is capable of. He noted that Reigns and him went into their match, obviously at the same level to him, but he is now on a completely new level. He knows what I'm all about now. I guarantee that match is going to come back around one day, and hopefully it'll be WrestleMania level because it's going to be a big freaking match, and now Roman knows not to take me so lightly. End quote. McIntyre noted that his goal right now is to focus on the WWE title and AJ Styles at TLC. He wants to put all of his energy into defending that title at TLC against Styles, and he doesn't know when a rematch with Reigns will happen. McIntyre stated that Reigns runs his mouth a lot and sees himself as an untouchable entity on SmackDown. He says, and I quote, so I'm there to show him there's a new sheriff in town. We're both very competitive. When that match comes back around, Drew McIntyre is the number one guy in WWE. End quote. It makes sense because of how great the match was at Survivor Series. But it doesn't make sense because you just put the title back on Drew for whatever reason. If Drew wasn't the champion, I could see him winning the Rumble again for a second year in a row and challenging Roman because that's what he wants to do. But now he's the WWE champion. You gave him the title for a second run because you got a plan in place, right? Probably not. You didn't put the title on him to have him lose the title to somebody, to have him win the Royal Rumble, and have him be the one to take down Roman, because nobody's taking down Roman. So no matter how you look at it, no matter which way you do look at it, Drew McIntyre will end up like a loser. He will end up being the guy that can't beat the guy. He beat Lesnar. He can't beat Roman. Do you want him to be the guy to beat Roman? Then make sure you give this match enough time. They're both young enough where you don't need to rush it. Reigns can win the title again a year or two from now, and you do that match when the time is right. Why does it need to be now? How many WrestleManias you got in the pipeline? It doesn't need to be at this year's WrestleMania. It doesn't need to be in 2021. He's not even on the same brand. It can wait. Patience is a virtue. Patience with these people needs to have a fucking payoff immediately. If WWE follows my rule and WWE follows my lead here, WrestleMania could be one of the best WrestleManias in recent memory. I've just given you a timeline on how things can make sense. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what works and what doesn't work. There's no reason why we should be talking about Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, and all these matches that we've seen at WrestleMania for 36 to take place again at 37, all because it's happening in Raymond James Stadium, and that's what was supposed to happen this year, but didn't. It's a new year. Move on. Give me something different, and don't bring me back to a WrestleMania that I honestly think everybody wants to try their damnedest to forget. You have a full roster with a slew of ideas. Anything you come up with is better than McIntyre, Lesnar, and Reigns, Goldberg. I just gave you a WrestleMania card that I think 100% of the community would be happy with. Do it. Listen, man. I know how everybody feels about the Christmas season and shopping for the holiday season. Now, there won't be many people in the stores this year, maybe. I don't know. Depending on who you are. You're probably doing all of your shopping online. But I know how difficult it is to compile a list, come up with things to get people. You might be shopping for people that you don't even give a shit about. What to get them, how are they going to feel about it, are they going to like it? Whatever the case may be, man. I went through this situation with my grandpa. I go through this situation every year with my dad. I ask my mom, Ma, what are we getting, Dad? Ma, what are we getting, Grandpa? I ask. Oh, I got your grandfather underwear. Oh, I got your grandfather t-shirts. He needs them for work. Meanwhile, my grandpa could go buy t-shirts and underwear by himself. What are we getting, Dad? Oh, I got him a greatest hits album, Journey. Like he doesn't have 67 of those fucking things laying around upstairs, right? Give me a break. Give me a break. I want you guys to not go through this situation that I did when I had to shop for my grandpa and shop for my dad. This is why I present to you The Ridge. Ridge.com/scripts. I want to thank them for obviously supporting the show. But man, what a great product. What a great holiday gift The Ridge will make. It is light. It is sleek, it is industrial, it doesn't fold or awkwardly bulge in your back pocket. And not only is it a great gift, but it seriously changed my entire outlook on wallets in general. Why are people still using wallets designed in the 90s? Carrying around old gift cards, hotel room keys, pictures that you don't even give a shit about. You don't even remember when they were taken. Why are we still walking around with wallets like this, man? The old George Costanza, unorganized mess is what I call it, man. The Ridge, like I said before, it's industrial and it's sleek. It holds up to 12 cards, plus room for cash. You got the cash strap or the money clip. I got the money clip, but it doesn't really matter. It's great. Over 30 colors and styles, including carbon fiber and burnt titanium. I am more of a forged carbon type of guy. But don't take my word for it, man. I love my wallet. They got over 30,000 five-star reviews on Google alone. Durable materials means each wallet comes with a lifetime warranty. You can own one wallet and own one wallet for the rest of your life, and that will be the Ridge. The Ridge team is also so confident that you'll like it that they will let you test drive it for 45 days. If you don't like it, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but they'll give you a full refund if you come to that conclusion. Guys, I want you to go out there and spread the gift of Ridge, man. Free worldwide shipping. Get 10% off. Ridge.com/script. Use code SCRIPT at checkout. And one very important feature about the Ridge that I think a lot of people overlook, and I will say this, one of my favorite features personally about it, RFID blocking technology that protects you from digital pickpockets, meaning your ID and your card information will be safe no matter where you go, man. Ridge.com/script. Use code SCRIPT at checkout. Don't let the holidays get you down, man. Don't stress yourself out about buying gifts. Buy the gift and give the gift of the Ridge. Ridge.com/script. You know, I'm sitting here and I'm mulling over everything that I just mentioned. And I think we all can come to a common denominator here that Vince McMahon is the disease that is ruining WWE. He is the reason why these shows suck every single week, with Bruce Pritchard being number 2. Can't leave him out. In any discussion when I talk about how terrible this product is, I can't leave Bruce Pritchard out. It's my thing. We all know Vince is a senile, demented motherfucker. We all know Vince is just out of touch. We all know he's batshit crazy. I'm not saying that in a jovial, Vince is crazy. Yeah, you're a crazy one, man. No. Vince sucks. Vince is complete garbage to the WWE product. Then I read a report like I did on Friday afternoon, and I ask myself, man, how many more times can I be right about the things that I talk about, man? Vince McMahon reportedly threw a fit about the working ability of certain main roster superstars. Now, the in-ring aspect of WWE is the least important aspect of them all. It doesn't really factor into anything. It is definitely on the lower rung of importance. This is a company that takes greater pride in sports entertainment than anything else. That's not to say that the men and women on these shows suck. In fact, the work rate in WWE is probably the best it's been in decades. But in recent years, there's always something that Vince McMahon is talking about or Vince McMahon is doing that we just look at and say, man, this guy is absolutely out of his fucking mind. Ripping up scripts, pushing somebody, stopping the push for that certain somebody. Whatever the case may be. You name it, it's been talked about. What words he doesn't want used on commentary. Whatever the case may be. Vince McMahon is apparently not just upset with what creative has for his weekly television shows because he's always ripping up a fucking script, but also the working ability of several wrestlers on the roster. Now Vince McMahon wants to start paying attention, folks. Now he wants to start paying attention to work rate. Dave Meltzer reported in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that McMahon isn't happy with the work rate of certain big guys, so he's ordered them to take classes with Adam Pearce, you know, the unofficial Raw and SmackDown GM, Adam Pearce. They won't tell you he was the GM, but he's the GM. And Drew Gulak as instructors at the Performance Center. Meltzer wrote, and I quote, Vince McMahon threw a fit about the working ability of certain guys on the main roster, mad in particular about some of the big guys. He's ordered some of the guys back to the Performance Center with 2 classes per week with Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak as instructors, end quote. Now, when Meltzer wrote this up in the Observer, he didn't really mention the names that Vince McMahon was upset with, so I had to do a little digging here, folks. WWE, as you know, has moved training facilities to a new facility near the original Performance Center, which is now the Capitol Wrestling Center, which houses NXT weekly television live every week on the USA Network. PW Insider has followed up on this story with more details. The site is reporting that Otis, big man Otis D, is one of the men that Vince McMahon is upset with. Dabba-Kato, I don't know what Dabba-Kato means to WWE. Why Vince McMahon is upset with Dabba-Kato. He wasn't even on fucking television outside of Raw Underground. So why is Vince McMahon mad at Dabba-Kato? Mace, a.k.a. Dio Madden, and Omos, AJ Styles' bodyguard, or doorman, whatever you want to call him. And last, but certainly not least, Keith Lee. he has ordered Keith Lee back to the Performance Center. These are the names that are doing extra training at the Performance Center per a Vince McMahon edict. The contingent has been training regularly on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Meltzer reported earlier that Adam Pearce and Drew Gulak were leading the training. The majority of the fans would agree that the work rate in WWE is as good as it's ever been nowadays. Guys come in from the indies, they got to adjust to the WWE way of life. Whatever they did in the indies is not going to be used in the WWE. It's almost as if you're starting over. We've heard these stories time and time again. Triple H has stated in past interviews even that when wrestlers sign with the WWE and start working in NXT, they have to go by the WWE playbook in regards to the style compared to what they have been doing in other promotions or on the independent wrestling scene. Folks, let me start with Otis. So, Vince McMahon now in December. By my clock, it's December 11th. We're now looking at December for Vince McMahon to be upset with somebody like Otis. You didn't realize that Otis is not that good in a singles role back in April when you gave him the Money in the Bank contract? You want me to sit here and think that Vince McMahon all of a sudden woke up one day and said, oh man, Otis can't wrestle. Otis is not making me happy with his work rate in the ring. Why did you break him away from Tucker Knight to begin with? This is why I stated the two are of a greater value than split away from one another. Heavy Machinery brings you more value than Tucker and Otis individually would give you. So you broke them away from each other, which was a perfectly good tag team pairing that Triple H gave theme music and a look and a style and an attitude for, because your tag team division is fucking absolutely irrelevant and non-existent. You broke these guys away to push your own agenda because Otis was your flavor of the month for one fucking month back in April. So you decide to give him Money in the Bank contract. Now you decide, Otis needs work on his in-ring ability. You didn't realize this when you broke him away from Tucker Knight? So what exactly is going on here, folks? Is Vince McMahon pretty much telling you that he's working to make the shows and the performers on said shows better? Or is this nothing more than Vince McMahon deflecting wrong by him onto others so that he is not the one people point the finger of blame at? I think that's the fucking reason. I think Vince McMahon is now making excuses for his terrible creative decisions. No reason why Otis, A, should have been broken up from Tucker, why Heavy Machinery had to be split, and Otis be given the Money in the Bank contract. So what you're admitting is that you wasted every single person who invested time into Otis. You wasted their time. Every single person that we wanted to win the Money in the Bank briefcase didn't matter because you wanted to push fucking Otis. You didn't realize he wasn't good singles then? Dabba-Kato and Omos don't matter to me. They're not even on fucking TV. Omos is on TV. He's not even a wrestler. Why does he need training? What does he need as far as training goes? Which certain look you want him to have on TV, where you want him to stand, whatever the case may be. He ain't wrestling. Nor do I care, or nor does anybody care to see him wrestle. Dabba-Kato, he didn't do much of anything until Raw Underground. Then WWE drafted him to Raw. Then they moved him back to NXT. So why does it fucking matter what Dabba-Kato does in the eyes of Vince McMahon? Mace? Do we give a shit about Retribution? Now you're worried about Mace actually wrestling. You were the fucking guy that put him in this position in the first place, Dio Madden. You put this gimmick together, you put this group together because you needed something to stick where your creative team and your creative ideas were lacking. You wanted shock and awe, and all we got is shockingly bad. And you ruined 5 careers because of it. Now you want to blame Mace because he's not good. The fucking gimmick is not good. It never was good and never had a chance to be good. He shouldn't even be on the fucking main roster anyway, but you put him there and you gave him a shit gimmick to work with. So whose fault is that? Keith Lee is the one I don't get. Keith Lee is the one I don't get. Apparently, Keith Lee is now a bad professional wrestler, folks. This is where I want to focus most of my energy and most of my anger. Remember, and I know you guys do, because if you've been listening to me for any extended period of time, you would know that I've always stated that NXT was an issue for the main roster. That the main roster looks to kill everything that NXT used to do good. Now, NXT is more like the main roster, which fits into my agenda anyway, because they wanted it to be as bad as the main roster, so they don't upstage the main roster, which they have been doing for years and years and years, and Vince finally got sick of it to a point where he pulled 10 to 15 members of the NXT roster from that roster to Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, killed the majority of them outside of a Bianca Belair and maybe somebody else, Keith Lee or Matt Riddle, which they're declining week by week anyway. Angel Garza, this one, Aleister Black, you name it. Tucker, Otis, Lars Sullivan, they've all been killed. They've all been killed. Their careers are done. Finished. The main roster always had an issue with NXT. No matter how you look at it, the way they do shows, they had a problem with it. The traction they were getting, they had a problem with it. Vince McMahon pulling a gimmick from NXT that Triple H had perfected, pretty much giving Vince McMahon fucking gold on a silver platter. If that even makes fucking sense. I'm not even making sense. He gave him fucking gold. He set these guys up for future. For the future of the WWE. What does Vince McMahon do? Because him and his team did not come up with it. They gotta change something here. They gotta tweak something there. Whether it's pew 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 on Ricochet or Aleister Black with the fucking creak coming up from the grave and then completely changing someone's theme or putting a shirt on this guy when he didn't need a shirt or whatever the case may be. They always gotta put a Vince McMahon stamp on it because he did not actively come up with the entire presentation that Triple H pretty much worked his ass off coming up with to give Vince McMahon so Vince McMahon doesn't have to do any work and Vince McMahon changes it all. Because he didn't come up with it. Because everybody knows that what Triple H does is more than likely better than what Vince McMahon does at this stage of the game. Even though Triple H right now, NXT sucks, okay? This is news to me. Keith Lee can't wrestle. Keith Lee can't wrestle now. Keith Lee was the NXT and North American champion at the same fucking time. The only man in the 8-year history of NXT to do that. Now, if he was such a bad wrestler, Vince, Bruce, why would they go and give him, of everybody on that roster, that honor? Man, he must be a terrible pro wrestler if that is the case, right? Have you guys watched Keith Lee work in a match with a Ciampa, in a match with a Gargano, in a match with an Adam Cole? He's bad. I want you guys to go back and watch the match with Adam Cole where Keith Lee won both championships in that champion versus champion match. If you say that Keith Lee is a bad wrestler, or if you say Keith Lee can't wrestle, you are a blithering fucking idiot that doesn't deserve to watch pro wrestling in your off time. Keith Lee is a very good professional wrestler. Keith Lee has the makings of a future WWE superstar, but what Vince McMahon fails to realize is that it's all in presentation. It's all in creative. If you constantly give this guy shit on Monday Night Raw and you have him in a match every week And I can't even remember the last time he got a pinfall victory. How is he going to look, not only to the fans watching at home, but how is he going to look to management? How is he going to look to management of all people? He's not going to look very good, and people are going to look at him as like, this guy's a loser. This guy's a loser. You pull him up from NXT, he had his Limitless theme song. They took that from him. There's no fucking way I'm believing any excuse by WWE why they can't use the CFO theme song, because he came out with it just 2 days before he made his main roster debut on Monday Night Raw. So if it was an issue in NXT, or if it was an issue on Monday Night Raw, it should have been an issue in NXT, which it was not. They pull him up, they give him some generic WWE 2K theme music for a creator wrestler and their fucking customization options. They probably lifted some shit from a fucking video game for all we know to give him theme music. They put a goddamn fucking shirt on him. I mean, everything, we talked about this in excess. Everything that you should not do for someone's debut on the main roster, they did it. And they ruined Keith Lee right out of the gate because Vince McMahon can't help himself. Vince McMahon has to put his stamp on everything because he didn't come up with it. He's not a Vince McMahon guy. He's my son-in-law's guy, and I gotta show up my son-in-law. It's all in the creative. If Vince ain't happy with what's going on, then Vince is going to look to deflect the blame to somebody else. Keith Lee sucks on the main roster because Vince McMahon. Everybody knows it's because of Vince McMahon, but Vince McMahon won't take blame. Bruce is not going to take blame, so they're going to blame it on Keith Lee. They're going to blame it on Otis. Otis sucks because Vince McMahon decided to break away Heavy Machinery. Vince McMahon decided to give Otis the Money in the Bank contract to do nothing with, to be a loser, and then draft him away from his tag team partner. They made Keith Lee a fucking loser. This guy hasn't gotten a pinfall victory since, Randy Orton? At Payback? Give me a break, folks. I said it once. I'm going to say it again. If anybody thinks Keith Lee's a bad wrestler in this company, then clearly you have not been watching NXT. Or if you think Keith Lee is a bad wrestler, you refuse to admit that you watch NXT, and you refuse to admit that what I said about Vince McMahon and the main roster and the way they think of NXT, you refuse to say that I'm correct. If you watch NXT, you would realize that Keith Lee does not need any training. He was down in NXT for 3 fucking years, and you mean to tell me that he needs more additional training under the WWE watch? This does not make any sense. Any sense whatsoever. Fine, give him the training. Give him the fucking training. I want to see where it gets him. And additionally, because you're not going to hear this from anybody else, all that report about Keith Lee getting a WWE title match at WrestleMania against Lesnar and being in that triple threat match that's proposed by WrestleVotes against Lesnar and McIntyre, if Vince McMahon thinks the guy can't fucking wrestle towards the end of December now, as we get into January and Royal Rumble season, you mean to tell me this is the type of guy they're going to book to be at WrestleMania in a WWE Championship match against Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre? The guy that can't fucking wrestle? The guy that this late in his career was ordered to go back to the PC by his boss because he can't wrestle? The main roster hates everything NXT. They don't know it exists. And when they do know it exists, they look to kill it. That's why it's on Wednesday nights. And AEW is drawing near 1 million, and NXT isn't even ranking in the top 150 shows on cable. They hate NXT for whatever reason. NXT to them is a fucking eyesore. It's a problem. It's a money destroyer. They destroyed NXT, and they look to destroy everything that Vince McMahon doesn't have a hand in. Thus, Otis and Keith Lee are back at the Performance Center because of their shitty work rate, according to the chairman. Because I'm supposed to now hang my hat on what Vince McMahon says about fucking work rate. Great. Keith Lee can't wrestle, folks. We learn something new every single day. We learned CM Punk was on, Renee Paquettes podcast, a.k.a. Renee Young, Jon Moxley's wife, who's pregnant. and they're having a baby daughter. Congratulations to them. CM Punk, of course, was on Renee Paquettes' podcast. And I do think that he was on this podcast because it does fit an agenda that we will see eventually play out. CM Punk was on that podcast with Renee, and he went over 10 important questions that Renee asked him, which I am quickly going to go over here, which, number one, is the most important. She asked, does it bother him that he isn't wrestling anymore? He says, no, not at all. I love that in the same category as like regrets, like what you're trying to run from or run from something, or what you're trying to spend time looking back on what you should have done. I'm still a wrestler, right? I mean, how long I did that for, or did I do that for? So he says, no, he doesn't feel bothered by him not wrestling anymore. CM Punk was asked a lot of things on how certain things changed the business, how a lot of things have changed since he has disappeared from pro wrestling, while some things remain the same ever since he's left. He talked about that, and he says, and I quote, the more they change, the more they stay the same. For ego purposes, because while I do have one, it's not as big as people like to imagine it is. I don't take credit for anything that happened. I do think there's a lot of people currently who wouldn't have jobs if it wasn't for me. A lot of people on that roster would not have jobs. Ricochet, a Kevin Owens, a Matt Riddle, guys of that nature, guys of that build, Ali, Chad Gable, you name it. You know who they are. Guys of that nature, guys of that size, guys of that background would not have a job in WWE, and he's right if it wasn't for Daniel Bryan and it wasn't for CM Punk. They changed the landscape of WWE, and they changed how WWE envisions going after independent talent. They seen how Punk and Bryan got over, and now look at most of the WWE roster. It's self-explanatory. I did not have an issue with anything he said on this show, by the way. He was also asked, what he misses the most about pro wrestling. He says, that's the one thing I miss. People like you, Renee. You're a peach. I'm not going to sit here and put you over. You know how cool you are. There's obviously people that I miss, and I miss seeing friendly faces, although they were few and far between while you were there. But you were one of them. So he misses the camaraderie with the people that he actually likes. I can't say I blame him. What else is there to like about WWE being among suit and ties that just look at you for money purposes? Nobody gives a fuck about you or your well-being there. He talked about wanting to cross over from WWE to MMA and planning to do so way before it actually happened. I had planned on leaving when my deal was up in 2010 or 2011, whatever it was. That was my plan. I always thought it was never going to be, and I thought it was never just a hobby for me. So he wanted it to be more than what it was. When people looked at, CM Punk, a pro wrestler getting into the UFC, he didn't look at it as just a hobby. I mean, it's not a hobby at that point. The way he was documented training. I mean, the guy moved from Chicago to an hour and a half away north in Illinois to go and find a place when he had a perfect apartment for himself, perfect condo for himself in Chicago. He moved an hour away with his wife so that he could be close to the training facility in which he trained at, under Rufus. So that's not a hobby. That's someone who is dead serious about doing what he did, and that is be a UFC fighter. He was also asked the difference between Dana White and Vince McMahon. They vote based on what is good for their pocketbook, he says. But yeah, I think if I had to really compare and contrast, I think Dana is more generous. I think Dana does a lot of stuff for the fighters behind the scenes. I think there's a lot of locker room money thrown around that people don't know about. So the less said about Vince McMahon, the better there. He didn't really mention Vince by name, but he talked about that Dana is more generous than Vince without actually mentioning Vince in this little quote that I got here. CM Punk's views on WWE policy in regards to superstars using Twitch and other third-party handles. Of course, Renee was going to ask him about this. He says, and I quote, "I just saw Xavier Woods petitioning to get a job with G4, the G4 gaming network. Why is it okay for him to do that, but Zelina Vega can't have a Twitch?" That was always my thing, and people labeled me a complainer or whiny because I would always be the guy that would say, wait, why is so-and-so able to do this? Because there was always outside interest, not only from me. It's who you know and what they think of you. They love the New Day, and they love Xavier Woods. They don't think the same way, even though we heard Vince McMahon looked at Zelina like he looked at Stephanie, like his own daughter, which was complete bullshit after the fact, because they let her go without even thinking. I don't blame him on asking that question either. It's business. It's cutthroat. Shit like that's going to happen. But it's never wrong for somebody to raise that same question. Why can he do it, or why can she do it, but she can't? Isn't everybody an equal opportunity individual? No, they're not. Nobody is. It's who you know and if they like you or not. That's it. Moving on. AJ Lee, her reaction when CM Punk decided to try MMA. I don't know if I remember a specific reaction, but I'm positive it wasn't elation. It was kind of a reaction a mother would give her son, worry. But she also backs me 100%. She's a good wife. She's a good wife. Also on AJ Lee, how or if their relationship changed after they both left WWE. CM Punk left in 2014, as you guys know, and AJ was a year later. I don't know if anything changed. It was just hard being sued by this company. There were a lot of fights and arguments that were a manifestation of me being angry. It was hard on her because she was still working there, and I, didn't like that, obviously. And also, her neck got messed up. There was a lot going on, but obviously, it made us stronger in the end. And that's what a good partner does. Sticks to you and sticks by you until the very end. CM Punk, as far as his acting goes, he was in this movie called Girl on the Third Floor, and he was also in another one called Rabid. He starred in both of these, and he's a big horror movie guy. Is he open to other genres, or does he just want to stick to horror movies? I'm navigating all the stuff by myself. I'm fortunate to have a lot of friends who I can learn from and pick their brain. You basically want somebody who's going to work their ass off for you, and this guy has already sent me so many things I'm self-taping for. So good on him, man. He's keeping himself busy. But the million-dollar question is, what would it take for CM Punk to come back to pro wrestling? He says this, and this exactly was the topic of discussion between me and Jesse on Wednesday night when we did the Dynamite post show. He says, and I quote, "Without wanting to insult anybody on either side of the fence, any WWE talent or any AEW talent, it would take, above all, an interesting scenario. A story that would be fun to tell. Also, just the stupidest amount of money. But they could save themselves a whole lot of money if they just presented a fun storyline. Now, what that is, I don't know. I'm a pretty picky guy, especially at this point. At least he was honest. It's going to take a stupid amount of money. He's a businessman. He knows what his value is, and his value is still high at this juncture. Not as high as it was before he took that WWE gig on Backstage. But the situation with Punk is, he's always said, I want somebody to approach me and sit me down, treat me like a human being, treat me like a respectful human being, and present something to me in the line of what I want as far as the storyline goes, because I didn't get that in WWE. He didn't get that in WWE. They didn't give a fuck about storylines over there. I mean, this is the same guy that they had a 434-day title reign, only for Dwayne Johnson to take it and defend that title at WrestleMania against John Cena. So, Punk He wants something substantial. Yes, it's going to cost them, and it should cost them, but he wants a storyline that he could sink his teeth into and something that's going to create a long-lasting memory. I talked about this with Jesse. The fact that that was one of the biggest questions that she asked him, and the fact that he was on that show, and the fact that we all know who she is married to. CM Punk, in my eyes, this is just a guess. This is a prediction. With Sting coming to AEW, I do not think that that is the only name that Tony Khan has in his back pocket. I think Tony Khan has talked to Punk. I think there has been open lines of communication. I think Kenny Omega winning the World Championship is a thing that they're really going to take and build around WrestleMania season. The partnership with Impact Wrestling did not happen for, any specific reason for AEW outside of one thing and one thing only, and that is to get a mega show with not only Impact. Impact is working with New Japan. I think all three of these companies are going to be working together in 2021. How long that lasts, I don't know. Sting is not the only big name. Kenny Omega, there was a news article, which we will be talking about on Wednesday night. Kenny Omega is set to headline several Impact Wrestling pay-per-views. Now, what does that entail? They've already teased a Rich Swann, who is their Impact World Champion, a Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega match because he's eyeing championships. He wants to be the belt collector. And it would be right for AEW to allow Omega on their show, on Impact, to win their world championship. It would be a good business move for Impact to do that. It's a shit move on their roster's behalf because he's not really an active member of their roster, and you're going to have somebody, an outsider, coming on in for the sake of business, taking opportunities away from, doing that type of thing. But have Omega win the world championship. Have Omega be the catalyst for this partnership between Impact and AEW. Get New Japan involved. I think all of this is leading to a stadium show at some point, whether it happens WrestleMania weekend or if it's its own weekend, when things hopefully get back to normal. They've always talked about that Jacksonville Stadium. How many people they fit in there, I don't know. But the longer this partnership goes on, the more likely we will see something like this happen. Sting was brought in for a reason. We don't know what. We don't know who he's going to be in the ring with. It's been discussed that he's going to be in the ring. Whether that's going to be Cody, whether it's Jericho, we don't know. I could see Jericho and Sting being a mega match. I could see Cody and Sting being a mega match. But Omega, if he's going to be the belt collector and he's going to be the best in the world at what he does, he's already mentioned that several times in the two appearances on Impact and on AEW, with, I'm sure, him mentioning that more often. I do think all of this is leading to Punk being with AEW and getting a mega match with him and Omega at some point for the title of best in the world. That I do think is something that we will see. It might not happen next year. It could very well happen next year. I've said this time and time again. I've said this, Punk will be back at some point. I mentioned him being back with Daniel Bryan. If Bryan was to leave WWE, I even said it many years ago. If Bryan left WWE and didn't re-sign with the company, he went to the Indies, he went to Japan, he went to Ring of Honor, he did whatever he wanted to do, I think that would have brought Punk out of retirement. That's just the feeling I got. But with Punk being back in the public eye again on this podcast, and we all know that whatever he says and wherever he goes as far as the podcast goes, it's going to be big information. It's going to be big news. There's a reason why this was done. We might not see it yet, but I do think Punk is in the back pocket of Tony Khan. I really do think this. And I do think we're getting a mega show at some point in that stadium when the time is right. And the reason why this partnership with Impact is happening is because of that. It's not directly benefiting AEW yet. It's going to impact Impact first. It's going to impact AEW later because as far as I see it, from what we see now, this partnership is only benefiting Impact with the ratings that they got on Tuesday night on Access TV. They beat NXT in the ratings. If you factor in all the different platforms that you could view this shit on, they beat NXT in the ratings on USA Network. It's impacting Impact on Access right now. It will impact AEW at a later date. I do think Punk is in Tony Khan's back pocket. So I wanted to go over that because that's a big talking point as well in the world of pro wrestling. Now, speaking of AEW Dynamite, they ranked number 2 on cable. Number 2 on cable with the key demo. Nearly 1 million viewers. I predicted they'd get 1 million viewers. They didn't get there exactly, but they were very close to doing so, man. AEW was up while NXT saw a little bit of an increase, but they got blown out in total viewers. It was AEW that took the win this week in total viewership and won the key demo as usual. AEW had an absolutely loaded card for Winter is Coming, and they had a loaded follow-up show as well with Shaquille O'Neal being there. We had MJF versus Orange Cassidy. We had the Inner Circle Turmoil take a nice little twist. We had the tag team match between the Young Bucks and the Hybrid. We had a lot of stuff going on. Kenny Omega was there with Don Callis. Sting was there. He confronted Cody Rhodes. We had a lot of stuff happening on AEW, man. So they had the best demo rating of the year with a 0.42. That was actually beaten by this week's show, a 0.45 in the 18 to 49, man. So they are killing it in that key demo. Dynamite drew 995,000 viewers. NXT drew 659,000 live viewers. Last week, AEW did 913, and NXT did 658. AEW, like I said, was ranked number 2 in the top 150 on cable, while NXT was number 37, and they won all of the demographics except for that viewer over 50, which NXT won 0.35 to AEW 0.29. Now, like I mentioned, I went over what happened there on Dynamite. MJF beat Orange Cassidy. We had the Young Bucks continue their back and forth with the Acclaimed. They beat TH2. We got Jericho and MJF coming to an agreement with Sammy Guevara. Sammy's trusting Jericho for now. We have the situation with Sting. We don't know exactly what he's doing. Darby Allin was challenged to a TNT title match by Brian Cage. So that is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Lots of moving parts on Dynamite. Meanwhile, NXT, I don't know what the fuck they're doing on NXT, to be quite honest with you. Finn Balor is back. He is still the NXT champion. And the reason why he is still the NXT champion remains to be seen. But if they wanted to take the championship off of him, they would have done so already. But maybe they just want to wait till Karrion Kross comes back to take that title off of Finn Balor, because their plans always they've always been with Kross as champion and not Balor. So there really isn't anybody on that roster that is deemed worthy enough to take that title off of Balor anyway, and they don't want to strip him of the championship again and have that title vacant again. So they figured, let's keep it on him, let him get better, let's get the match with Balor and Kross. They're doing it at New Year's Evil on January 6th, and that's where I think we see the title change. There's going to be a nice, easy transition. Kross is going to be a 2-time NXT champion. Scarlett came out. She approached Finn Balor. Apparently, Pete Dunne wants a shot at Balor. Kyle O'Reilly wants a shot at Balor. Damian Priest. They all confronted. What O'Reilly has to do with the championship, I don't know. Hasn't mentioned the championship. He lost to Balor. He's not even in contention. What Pete Dunne has to do with the championship. What Damian Priest has to do with the championship. He lost in our North American title match at the TakeOver pay-per-view. Why is he in contention or discussion for a NXT title match? Sounds like main roster booking to me. So that happened. Scarlett came out. Kross destroyed Priest. And we're getting the match. It is Devil versus Demon. Kross versus Balor. Whether he comes out as the Demon or not remains to be seen. I don't know. So that is happening on January 6th, 2021. Jake Atlas defeated Isaiah Swerve Scott. Atlas bores me to tears. Completely bores me to tears. The Grizzled Young Veterans defeated Everrise and Imperium in a triple threat tag team match. Imperium is incredible. The Grizzled Young Veterans are just as great. And Everrise, they're growing on me. They're growing on me. So good on them, man. They went from not having a spot on this show to being absolutely jobbers on this show to now they're in a triple threat match with two of the best tag teams on the planet. So good on them, man. I guess the longer you wait, that opportunity is going to come sooner rather than later. Tommaso Ciampa defeated Cameron Grimes. Grimes just cannot get a win on this show, man. And what are they doing with Tommaso Ciampa? Holy shit. Get this guy in a priority role. I don't want to see Gargano and Ciampa again. But my God, man. Ciampa, I guess he's all right. As long as he is in NXT, I guess it's all right. And then Cross returned to attack Damian Priest. I talked about that. And Pete Dunne defeated Killian Dane. Raquel Gonzalez defeated Ember Moon. You could tell how high they are on Raquel Gonzalez, man. So Ember Moon, she suffered another loss on NXT. That women's division is stacked. Is Raquel Gonzalez the real deal, or is she just the flavor of the month by NXT management, man? That remains to be seen. But that division is absolutely stacked to a point where it is easily the best thing on this show. Now, moving on with the rest of the ratings news here. Monday Night Raw, they did what they usually do, stink it up on Monday night. According to Showbuzz Daily, the show drew 1.736 million viewers on the USA Network. That is down from a 1.741 million viewership a week ago. It was up against Week 13. I don't believe we're in Week 13 of Monday Night Football, man. Week 13 of the NFL season. It was the Buffalo Bills versus the San Francisco 49ers. That did 7.763 million viewers on ESPN. Obviously, that's a very low viewership. The last couple of games, they were trending towards a 12 or a 13 on ESPN. I guess it wasn't that good of a game, huh? The 18 to 49 demo, so hour 1 at a 0.55, hour 2 was a 0.52, and hour 3 was a 0.47. The hourly breakdown as follows is 1.852, 1.775, and that third hour, which is always fucking terrible, 1.583 million viewers. Now, as far as Monday Night Raw goes, man, not a good show at all. Shayna Baszler got pinned by Asuka again, which I don't really understand. Shayna Baszler is being treated like a complete afterthought on this show. Get her away from Nia Jax, please. And Asuka and Lana are the number one contenders for the tag team titles, which more than likely they will win. For the reasons that I mentioned on Monday during the review and during the live stream, when Charlotte comes back, it's going to be an easy transition for them to give Charlotte the women's championship, all while maintaining Asuka having a championship in the form of the tag team titles. So when you think they'll take the title off of Asuka and put it on Charlotte and leave Asuka with nothing, they're not going to leave Asuka with nothing. She'll have the tag team titles. So that's that. Ricochet and Dana Brooke versus Slapjack and Reckoning. They defeated Slapjack and Reckoning. It looks to be Reckoning is not right now in favor of Ali. And I don't know what this means. If she's being kicked out of the group or if the group is actually disbanding. Because we didn't see Mace, we didn't see Dijakovic, and Shane Thorne, Slapjack, was there with Reckoning, losing. Ali may be distancing himself from all of this, and this group may be dead before long. Thank God. I hope that's the case. Let's get Slapjack back on NXT as Shane Thorne. Let's get Mia Yim either on Raw or SmackDown or NXT as Mia Yim, right? Let's get Dijakovic back somewhere as Dominic Dijakovic. And Mace is one of the guys that Vince McMahon said needs to go back to the Performance Center. End it. It sucks. Ricochet, if this guy resigns with the WWE, he is the biggest schmuck of our lifetime. This guy needs to distance himself from this company ASAP. They got you teaming with fucking catering. But I guess this all goes to show you that Ricochet befriended Dana in catering. That's why they're a tag team. Kofi Kingston defeated Shelton Benjamin. And then Cedric Alexander was upset, so he challenged Kofi Kingston and defeated Kofi Kingston. Doesn't really make Shelton Benjamin look all that good, but Cedric gets a win now over Kofi and Xavier in back-to-back weeks, which is enough for Creative to book the tag team title match at TLC. Exactly how I told you it was going to be. AJ Styles, The Miz, and John Morrison defeated Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and this was a 2-on-3 handicap match. The match was fine. I just don't give a shit to see McIntyre in the ring with Miz and Morrison anymore. So please, enough is enough. Bobby Lashley defeated Jeff Hardy. Matt Riddle wants to team with Jeff Hardy and call themselves the Hardy Bros. Give me a break. So that's a clue as to where they're going. Either the New Day or what I think is going to happen, the Hurt Business wins the tag team titles, and then they keep their feud with Matt Riddle going in the form of the Hardy Bros versus Shelton Benjamin and Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, which I don't know what that does for the New Day or where that leaves the New Day, but that remains to be seen. No tag team wrestlers, no tag team division on Monday Night Raw. Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. This was Bray Wyatt and Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt against Randy Orton. We got The Fiend coming out at the end of the show, and he did some magic act where we had Bray Wyatt take an RKO. Randy Orton went to go pin Bray Wyatt. Lights went out. When the lights came back on, he was not covering Bray Wyatt, Mr. Rogers. He was covering The Fiend, and then he got put in the mandible claw. And that's that. Monday Night Raw was fucking terrible. It was absolutely fucking terrible, man. SmackDown was no better. Their ratings were in, and they were down, as always, as well. They actually were down, but they were back up over 2 million viewers. The episode drew an average of 2.029 million viewers, which is up from last week's SmackDown, which did a 1.987. First hour saw a 2.053, and hour 2 did a 2.044. It also pulled in an average of a 0.50 rating in the 18 to 49, which was good enough for number 2 on the night. And that is down from a 0.55 rating in the 18 to 49 demographic the show did last week. So what happened on SmackDown? Quickly, nothing happened on SmackDown, really. We got the official confirmation for Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns at TLC in a tables, ladders, and chairs match for the Universal title. Natalya defeated Bayley because fuck Bayley. She's won so many matches and did so many things, so many great things on SmackDown and on Raw. In WWE now, we got to give back to fucking Natalya. All while building a feud towards a match with Bianca Belair. Daniel Bryan, Big E, and Rey Mysterio defeated Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, and Shinsuke Nakamura in a Pat Patterson 6-man tag team tribute match. Sasha Banks and Carmella, they had a terrible segment on the show. Sasha replied to Carmella and challenged her to TLC at the pay-per-view for the SmackDown Women's title. Baron Corbin introduced the ex-Forgotten Sons, Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler, minus Jackson Riker. He is their new cronies. They are an actual pairing for the foreseeable future. If you guys watched my live stream last night, we talked about that particular piece of information. This is just not a one-off thing. Steve Cutler and Wesley Blake are now cronies of Baron Corbin. So we got King Corbin versus Murphy. That happened again. Corbin won because of the ex-Forgotten Sons. Jackson Riker, by the way, is now a roadie for Elias. Whether Elias is undergoing a gimmick change, I have no idea. But apparently he is now seeing the light. And instead of rock and roll, I think he's going for Christian rock. So that remains to be seen. And Kevin Owens, Otis teamed up against Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. They won by disqualification because that's just the way it ended up. That's just the way it ended up. Reigns turned his attack on Jey Uso after everything had happened. And the consequences revealed themselves to Jey Uso because he's got a big fucking mouth. Reigns stood tall and got in Kevin Owens' face and said, "You wanted my attention. You got it." Owens was left in a 2-on-1 handicap match because they took Otis out of the match early. And Owens was just beat down by Roman Reigns at the end of the match, selling that match at TLC for the Universal title. So the weekly television shows, man, more of the same, nothing new, nothing exciting. It is what it is. Got a couple of news and notes here stemming from WWE, man. This one really boils my situation with WWE. Mauro Ranallo didn't like what was happening or who was involved with NXT. That's why he's not there anymore. Now, he called the Mike Tyson match a couple of weeks back, and everybody was like, "Oh, man, he's in good spirits. He sounds great." Mauro Ranallo was back. He left after SummerSlam, and he loved doing NXT. Now, he is still commentating, but it's not with any particular wrestling promotion. Ranallo recently spoke to Post Wrestling about his tenure with the company. He spoke out about how mentally grueling it was to be part of WWE, plans change on a regular basis, and they kept switching up announce teams. So Ronaldo admitted that he might have been the problem. The situations can be stressful while changing on the fly. Due to how serious he takes his job, on show days, he wants to be left alone, which I do not blame him. I get the stressful situations change on the fly, and the system changes on the fly. But for my mental health, even moving to NXT, when we were live, it was the best experience I could ask for. And that's a testament to what Triple H and everyone in NXT has done. I just felt, for my own mental health, even doing the show from home, it was to the point where I would have a panic attack in the morning of the recordings in the last few months. All respect, I didn't like what was happening and who was involved. All respect to all announcers. I believe in chemistry. Maybe I was the problem. On show days, I'm not a great guy to be around because I'm focused, I'm prepared, and I expect everyone else to be the same. I'm a play-by-play announcer, and I think I'm one of the best in the business. I need to be left alone at times. End quote. Like I said, he did Showtime Boxing, Roy Jones Jr., Mike Tyson, blockbuster pay-per-view event. We'll likely hear Morrow in the years to come. Not going to be on WWE television anytime soon. But with AEW adding a second show, Tony Khan, if Ronaldo's out there, you better bring him on in. I think that would really amp up the legitimacy of AEW, especially having somebody like that, like Morrow, the voice of Morrow, on your show. Really. I think that would be fantastic. I really do think that would be fantastic. Triple H. Triple H mentioned The Undertaker in NXT. Undertaker apparently will be doing work with NXT. Ahead of his final farewell at Survivor Series, we got news on The Undertaker. He may be heading to NXT as a coach, and he has visited the Performance Center and has been mentoring WWE talents throughout the years. And it was on the TakeOver War Games post-show media call. Triple H was asked if there's been any update on The Undertaker joining NXT following those visits. Triple H would respond saying that he touched base with The Undertaker the week of War Games, stating that The Undertaker has earned a break, but they'll meet in the new year to figure out how to proceed as Taker's future involves being in NXT. Triple H says this, and I quote, "Well, I can tell you this, that anytime Taker is involved here, anytime he has walked through these doors, everybody that's here is better off for it." I just got done reading about Mauro Ranallo. He wasn't better off for it. In fact, he didn't like the system. So Triple H being Triple H and shilling NXT as usual. They all come out of here with a different perspective, a fresh viewpoint, and he's one of the most knowledgeable guys that has ever been in this business, I believe. Even myself, I learn from him every time I am around him. He is looking now, I believe, to move to the next phase of his life, and we talked about it a lot. It involves being here. It involves the future. It involves getting more into that. I would like to believe he has earned the taking a breath off of his retirement for a moment, but we actually just touched base in the last couple of days, and that is something coming out of the holidays we will certainly be talking about in 2021, which is just one more reason to be excited about the next year. With everything else that is happening, I think him involved. I can't stress this enough, how impactful it's going to be for everybody. Triple H then said to end this particular portion of the call, hopefully Taker will be here more and more. And that was a question about elevating talent and restocking the roster as well. If The Undertaker is done, fine. If The Undertaker is finished, fine. I think a natural progression for him is definitely being down in NXT. And my God, man, not only that, for everybody involved there, I'm thinking about everybody that wants to come into WWE. You got to think long and hard about what you want to do anyway. If you want to go to WWE, if you see a career for yourself outside of NXT when they eventually demote you, right, to Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, it's going to be great being in NXT, but after that, it gets kind of fuzzy. But never mind who's there and how they're going to benefit from this and have access to someone like that and have access to a Triple H and have access to a Shawn Michaels. I mean, my God, man, Triple H is assembling a team for himself like you would not believe. A William Regal, a Matt Bloom, right? Fuck a Road Dogg. But with everybody else that may be thinking about coming into WWE, how good of a selling point is that for NXT and Triple H to use to lure someone to come into NXT and train and learn and be a part of that roster and sign a contract with WWE and be a part of NXT, knowing that you got Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker being hands-on with everybody that comes on in? That's crazy. I mean, that is fucking crazy. Just even think about it. In my eyes, number one and number two of all time. That is unbelievable. So if he's really done, and I say if he's really done, I think that is a great move for Triple H to have The Undertaker in his ranks down at the Performance Center. Speaking of someone that did not sign with the WWE, Trey Miguel. He did not sign when the Rascals were signed to WWE contracts to be a part of NXT. Only Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz inked deals with the company. Triple H was actually asked about this during the TakeOver War Games post-show conference call. He avoided really going into the situation, but Trey Miguel took to Twitter, I'm assuming he was listening, where he explained a very personal situation that has apparently kept him from making any decisions about his future right now while his partners went on to sign contracts. He says, and I quote, "I feel like it's worth mentioning again that a month and a half ago, my nephew was born prematurely and is in isolated care until what would have been his actual due date. Meeting a healthy baby boy is more important to me than anything else. I'm sure you can all respect that." We've heard many reasons why someone didn't sign. I gave my take on it. Maybe he was thinking about what this really means for his career. Maybe he finds success somewhere else and leaves his partners behind because he knows what awaits him. The small ceiling that I'm telling you right now is awaiting all of those guys. We've heard it all. But I think this is a good, solid reason as to why he didn't want to move on with his career yet. He wants things to be all right at home. He's putting his family first. And that's what he wants to take care of first and foremost before himself. I think everybody can respect that. There was a major story about NXT and how there's a backstage conflict between NXT and WWE main roster. This was a major story. I was actually going to make this a video all to itself. Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble. And that happened in January. She went on to win the NXT Championship from Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. Good match. Terrible creative decision that I look back on and think it's one of the worst creative decisions that they've made all year. It may be number one, to be quite honest with you. Because every time I talk about it, I get fucking angry. Now, there was supposed to be a crossover of sorts to have Charlotte Flair help the NXT roster, which never happened. Don't know why they think that would happen. She buried that roster. She did nothing for the ratings. She did nothing for that roster. She didn't help Rhea Ripley at all. The only one that benefited from this was Io. Io won the championship, and she did not even pin Charlotte Flair. She pinned Rhea Ripley in that match. So what exactly did Charlotte do down there? Nothing. Fightful is reporting that NXT and the creative team often had its own ideas and plans for Flair on the brand, but because they'd have to go through the Raw team, being that Charlotte was a Raw superstar, they got shot down with every idea that they proposed for Charlotte Flair. Because, like I said, she's a Raw superstar, and the main roster is greater than NXT. Meanwhile, she was holding NXT's title. The major part of this is that originally, now get this, Ripley was actually going to beat Flair at WrestleMania in the original plans, but it ended up getting changed to Charlotte Flair winning. There was also a big push, and I made a big mess of this situation. I made a big stink about this. There was also a big push for Bianca Belair to be added to this feud sooner than she was, which seemingly would have led to a three-way with Belair taking the pin from Ripley, meaning Flair wouldn't have been pinned, but Ripley still would have retained. Instead, Flair won, and Ripley's position on the card has dwindled to a point where she suffered and still is suffering for it. If you think Rhea Ripley feels special in this moment on NXT, you are a blind as a bat motherfucker. I'm telling you right now. This creative decision will haunt her for years. She may never recover from this. Never. That was in April. We're now going into January. She's still down there. She should be on the main roster by now. She's more than ready for the main roster. Where is she? After that, she has floated in irrelevancy, losing, while everybody else has passed her by. Tony, Ember, Dakota, Raquel, Candice. Everybody down there is passing Rhea Ripley by. She's not even in the top 5 on that roster anymore, where she last year at this time was number 1, beating Shayna Baszler for that NXT Women's title. Flair won and Ripley never recovered. One NXT talent told Fightful that the NXT team should have known what they were getting themselves into. All the excuses in the world, folks. All the excuses in the world cannot make that decision right. If you think Charlotte Flair beating Rhea Ripley was a right decision, you are a fucking idiot. That was one of the worst career decisions I have ever seen. Ever. You legitimately killed one of your top stars for Charlotte Flair, and she went on and did nothing with that title. It was only used as another fucking reason to get her a title reign on the resume. So everybody can boast and pretend that she's the greatest of all time, which she is nowhere near that fact. None. She's a selfish bitch who doesn't deserve anything at all. She's only gotten by because of the fucking last name that she owns. She should be in a position now where she's putting others over. I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte wins the Royal Rumble again. When she comes back, everybody bow down to the queen. Let's forget about everything. Everything in the women's division is going to be right when Charlotte Flair is back. I'm telling you this right now. When she returns, it's going to be worse than it's ever been when she's back on Raw. That title that Asuka has right now, she's holding it and keeping it warm for Charlotte Flair. Speaking of Charlotte coming back, apparently there are plans in place for Charlotte to come back. Charlotte actually has concrete plans for when she comes back. What they are, I don't know, nor do I care. But there was a rumor going around that WWE was going to pair Charlotte with Andrade. If you want me to actually care about Charlotte, pairing her with Andrade would be a good start. But apparently that's not going to happen. WWE is not pairing Andrade, and Charlotte Flair. WrestleVotes proposed that there's an idea being discussed to have Charlotte Flair and Andrade paired on television as a legitimate couple, being that they are a real-life couple, but they've never been mentioned as a real-life couple on TV. They didn't want to mention that previously because they didn't want to cause a conflict with Andrade being paired with Vega. Now that Vega's not there, this idea has been discussed. WrestleVotes notes that the idea to use Charlotte Flair's star is going to power and elevate Andrade into the main event scene. Apparently, that is not actually happening. WrestleVotes says, and I quote, "An idea that's been discussed, however, not determined at this point, is an on-screen pairing of Charlotte and Andrade when they return to TV. The idea behind it is to use Charlotte's star power to elevate Andrade into the main event scene." Not happening. Apparently, Charlotte has her own plans, and Andrade has his own plans. What they are remains to be seen. All I can tell you, folks, is I'm telling you right now, like I know the back of my own fucking hand, Charlotte Flair's coming back, and immediately, within weeks, is going to be the Raw Women's Champion. Easily. This is, without question, going to happen, and we will all be back to complaining. Get this bitch off of TV. She does nothing but ruin the women's division. How are you going to take a women's division on Monday Night Raw in its current state and then put Charlotte Flair into it and expect it to be better when there's legitimately nobody in that division to challenge Charlotte Flair? What do you think she's going to do alone at the top as champion? Seriously. There's nothing that Charlotte can do and nothing you can do with Charlotte to make that existing situation better. Fucking ridiculous, man. Charlotte being back on television is going to ruin all of that situation on Monday Night Raw. No question. No question. Finally, guys, Alexa Bliss. She wasn't on Monday Night Raw after she's been ingrained in this storyline on Monday night with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Where was she on Monday Night Raw when Bray Wyatt pulled some magic act and revealed the Fiend in the ring after he was RKO'd after the lights went out? Now, Alexa Bliss was absent from Raw because she was actually filming an episode or a remake of the American sitcom Punky Brewster. The last time the original series of Punky Brewster aired was in 1988. And I know that because I got it from the news source that everybody gets their news from. Google. Had to look it up. Punky Brewster. Obviously, I heard the name of it. I'm an 80s baby. But I never watched one episode of Punky Brewster. Not ever. Maybe my parents did, but not me. The sitcom's reboot is being produced by Devon Dudley, of all people. And it is believed that both Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are going to be a part of the show. Devon revealed the news in a cameo video, which was floating around online because people pay for this thing, cameo, and then upload it to Twitter. According to IMDb, this will be Alexa Bliss's first non-wrestling acting credit, so congratulations to her. She's the biggest part of the Fiend's act, and she's all filming fucking Punky Brewster. She'll be back on Monday Night Raw come Monday when the script is handed in at 7:58 p.m. on Monday night, right before they go live on the USA Network. And that's pretty much it, guys. Anything else that I got coming out of AEW? I got some AEW news lingering over. I'll talk about that on Wednesday night with Jesse. I won't bore you with that here, man. I've been here way too long as it is. Over 2 hours of Off the Script. As always, man, giving you the best in the world of WWE and beyond right here on the podcast. If you guys enjoyed the channel, or the video rather on the channel, let me know what you guys think down below. I am exhausted. I got SmackDown to get ready for. This is an arduous task in itself. Gotta get ready for SmackDown. I gotta get my mind right mentally for another terrible episode of SmackDown. You guys will be seeing this on Saturday at 5 p.m. Again, guys, hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Let me know what you guys think down below of all the top stories right here on Off the Script. And make sure you guys go and check out all the other videos that you might have missed. That is Monday Night Raw, AEW, and Friday Night SmackDown. Live streams and the post show on the channel. Hit that thumbs up. Make sure you guys go and support the Patreon page, patreon.com/JD from NY206. Get yourself a t-shirt. Get yourself an Off the Script beer mug, baseball bat, beer mug, man. Got to sign up annually. Go and check that out. And shout out to my boys over at The Ridge. Ridge.com/script. Get your holiday gifts courtesy of The Ridge. 10% off when you use code SCRIPT at checkout. And make sure you guys go and hit that thumbs up. As always, helps out the video tremendously. I'll see you guys back here for a brand new week of content on Monday Night Raw with the post show. Until then, thank you guys so very much. And I will see you right back here on Monday with a brand new week of Off the Script. See you guys then.